Picture a product page for something ordinary: a phone charger, a kitchen gadget, a pair of earbuds you have never heard of from a brand you cannot pronounce. It has 4,000 reviews and a rating of 4.9 stars, and the photos look professional, and the price is just low enough to feel like a small win. Then you sort the reviews by date and you notice something strange. The bulk of those glowing 5-star reviews all landed inside the same single week months ago in a tidy little burst, and almost nothing has come in since. That burst is the tell. Real customers trickled in over time, unevenly, in their own moods, on their own schedule. A wall of praise that arrives all at once in one tight window is not a happy crowd. It is a delivery. And once you learn to see that shape, you start seeing it everywhere because the manufacture of trust has quietly become an industry. Why a review is worth so much. Start with why anyone bothers. A review is not just a comment. It is the single most powerful nudge in online shopping, and everyone in the business knows it. People read reviews before they buy. They trust them more than the seller's own words. And a jump from 4 stars to 4.5 can change how many people click buy in a way that is worth real money. It goes further than persuasion. The platforms themselves use ratings and review volume to decide what to show. A product with more reviews and a higher average gets ranked higher, shown more often, recommended more aggressively. So a review does 2 jobs at once. It convinces the next shopper, and it teaches the algorithm to push the product in front of more shoppers. That double payoff is exactly why faking reviews is worth the trouble. Think about it from the seller's seat for a moment, not to excuse it but to understand it. A new product with 0 reviews is almost invisible. Nobody buys the thing with no reviews when the thing beside it has hundreds. So the first few hundred reviews are the hardest and the most valuable because they are the difference between existing and not existing. Honest reviews are slow. You sell, you wait, you hope, and most happy customers never write anything at all. The temptation is to skip the waiting and simply buy the thing that the platform treats as proof. Once you see reviews as a number that can be purchased rather than earned, the whole grim economy clicks into place. The brokers in the middle, the supply side runs through middlemen. There are operations whose entire business is producing reviews on demand, sitting between sellers who want ratings and a pool of people willing to post them. You will not find these advertised on the front page. They live in closed channels, private messaging groups, and corners of the web that move and rename themselves often, precisely because the platforms keep shutting them down. The point to take away is not how to find one. The point is that this is organized. It is not a few random liars. It is a structured market with suppliers, pricing, and a steady churn of accounts, and it exists because the demand is enormous and the reward is immediate. When a platform bans a batch of fake reviewers, the operation simply burns those accounts and spins up more, because accounts are cheap and disposable in a way that real reputations are not. The seller paying for reviews rarely touches any of this directly. They hand over a product link and a budget, and the machinery on the other side handles the messy work of looking human. A verified purchase loophole. The cleverest version exploits the one thing platforms trust most. A review marked verified purchase is supposed to mean the person actually bought the item, and shoppers weigh those reviews far more heavily, so the trade learned to manufacture the purchase itself. It works through private groups where a buyer is steered to a product, told to buy it at full price like anyone else, and then quietly reimbursed afterward, often with a little extra on top. On paper, it is a real transaction with real money moving through real accounts. The platform sees a genuine verified purchase and a glowing review attached to it. The refund happens off to the side, invisible to the system, which is exactly the point. When the words are just generated, for a long time the bottleneck was writing. A believable review takes a sentence or two that sounds like a person, and producing thousands of distinct blurbs that sound like real people by hand is slow and expensive. That bottleneck is gone. Cheap text generation can now produce an endless stream of reviews that read as fluent, specific, and varied, each one mentioning the battery life or the stitching or the customer service in slightly different words. The cost of a convincing fake review fell to almost nothing, and when the cost of producing something falls to almost nothing, the volume explodes. That single shift changed the scale of the whole problem. The flood changes everything. It is worth sitting with what that flood means. When fakes were handwritten, they were limited by human effort, and that effort acted as a natural brake. There were only so many that could be produced in a day. The brake is gone now. Single operation can generate more plausible reviews in an hour than a team of writers could in a month. The defenders are no longer fishing a few bad reviews out of a clean pond. They are trying to keep an entire reservoir from turning murky, and the inflow never stops. That is the real story of the last couple of years. Not that fakes got smarter, though they did, but that they got cheap and infinite. From platforms fight back. So how do the platforms catch any of it? The first instinct people have is that detectors read each review and judge whether it sounds fake. That happens, but it is the weakest tool because a carefully made fake reads fine in isolations. The strong signals come from looking at everything around the review rather than the words inside it. Your most powerful view is the network. Think of every reviewer and every product as dots, with a line drawn whenever a reviewer touches a product. Real shopping makes a loose, messy web, but a paid operation reuses the same pool of accounts across the same cluster of products, and that leaves a dense, tightly knit knot that looks nothing like organic behavior. You do not have to read a single word to see that knot. You just have to look at the shape of who reviewed what. Timing gives it away. Timing is the next great betrayer, and it is the one from our opening. Genuine reviews arrive in a ragged trickle that follows real sales. A coordinated push arrives in a spike. Dozens or hundreds clustered into a narrow window because they were all ordered at once. That burst is loud to a system watching the clock. A product that sat quiet for months and then collected 300 top reviews across 4 days has told the platform something the reviews themselves never say out loud. The rhythm of arrival is data, and fakes tend to share a rhythm that real customers never do. The same logic applies to a single reviewer. A real person reviews a few things a year on their own schedule when the mood strikes. An account that posts 10 reviews in an afternoon across products that have nothing to do with each other is moving at a pace no genuine shopper ever does. Speed itself becomes a confession, because honest enthusiasm is slow and scattered, and manufactured enthusiasm runs on a clock. The patterns in the ratings. Then there is the shape of the ratings themselves. Real products collect a spread. Most people are happy, some are lukewarm, a few are angry about a late delivery or a defect, and that mix produces a natural scatter of 1 through 5 stars with a long, believable tail. Manufactured praise tends to be too perfect. An unbroken wall of 5 stars with almost no middle and almost no complaints is not what genuine satisfaction looks like, because genuine satisfaction always carries a little friction. Detectors also watch the reviewers themselves. An account that only ever posts 5 stars, only for unrelated products from scattered sellers in tight bursts, is wearing its purpose on its sleeve. The language signals the words do still matter, just not one at a time. Across thousands of reviews, generated text leaves statistical residue. The same sentence structures recur, the same narrow emotional range, the same way of being enthusiastic without ever saying anything a real owner would only know from living with the thing for a month. Platforms also lean hard on the verified purchase signal, and they look past the label to the transaction underneath. A cluster of accounts that all bought the same item at full price and then never engage with it again, with money quietly flowing back out through other paths, draws attention even when each individual purchase looks clean. No single one of these signals is proof. The strength comes from stacking them, because a fake operation usually trips several at once. The cat and mouse. None of this stands still. Every time detection improves, the production side adapts, and every time production improves, detection adapts back. When network analysis got good at spotting reused accounts, the operations spread their work across more accounts to thin out the knot. When timing detection got sharp, they learned to drip reviews out slowly instead of dumping them in a burst. And as generated text got more varied and more human, the linguistic tells got fainter. This is the permanent shape of the field. It is not a war anyone wins outright. It is a balance that keeps shifting, where the defenders only need to notice one thing out of place, while the imitators have to look natural across every signal at once. That asymmetry is why the platforms, on the whole, keep their heads above water even as the flood rises. Who actually pays, step back and ask who loses when this works. It is easy to picture a victimless game between sellers and platforms, but that is not who carries the cost. The cost lands on the ordinary shopper who reads 4.9 stars, believes it, and receives something that breaks in a week. And it lands on the honest seller too. A small maker with a genuinely good product, earning real reviews slowly and honestly, gets buried under a competitor who simply bought their way to the top of the page. Fake reviews do not just trick one buyer at a time, they corrode the entire signal. Once enough ratings are purchased, the rating stops meaning anything, and the tool that was supposed to help everyone choose better quietly stops working for all of us. The slow poisoning of trust. That is the quiet damage, and it is the part that rarely makes headlines. Each individual fake review is a small lie, but in aggregate, they poison the well that the whole system drinks from. We built online shopping on the idea that the crowd's voice could guide us, that thousands of strangers rating a thing would average out to the truth. Flood that crowd with manufactured voices, and the average stops being trustworthy. You start to distrust 5-star ratings on instinct, which means you also distrust the honest ones, which means the genuinely good products lose their reward for being good. That is how trust dies. Not in one dramatic collapse, but in a slow erosion where eventually nobody quite believes the number anymore. Reading reviews more wisely. So what does this mean for you, standing in front of that suspiciously perfect product page? The goal is not to become cynical and trust nothing. It is to read reviews the way the detectors do, by looking at patterns instead of individual raves. A single breathless 5-star review tells you almost nothing. The shape of all the reviews together tells you a great deal. Look at the spread, not just the average. A product with a healthy mix of ratings, including some honest complaints, is often more trustworthy than one with a flawless wall of praise, because real satisfaction is never flawless. What the patterns reveal: a few habits go a long way. Check the dates and see whether the reviews arrived in a natural trickle or a sudden burst. Read the critical reviews first because they tend to be the realest and they tell you how the thing actually fails. Notice whether the praise is specific and grounded in real use or vague and interchangeable, since generated enthusiasm rarely knows the small annoyances that come from real use. And treat the rating as one input among many, not as a verdict. The number was the thing the manufacturers worked hardest to inflate, so it is the thing you should trust the least on its own. None of this makes you immune. It just moves you from reading reviews like a target to reading them like someone who knows how the trick is built. And that small shift in posture protects you more than any single rule ever could. If this pulled back the curtain a little on something you look at every day, that is exactly what this channel is for. We take apart the hidden machinery of the internet, the systems running quietly underneath the things you use, and we explain them from the inside without selling you anything. Subscribe and follow the rabbit hole. Next time, we follow the thread somewhere unexpected, to the small piece of plastic that turns out to be the internet's real gatekeeper. Almost every account you create, every identity you hold online, traces back to a phone number, and phone numbers are far stranger and far more contested than they look. That is the SIM card war, and it is the next stop down the rabbit hole.